Good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot. Today we're going to discuss this strange thing which is happening in Pakistan, the state of Pakistan versus the people of Pakistan. And to discuss this, I have with me Brig Arun Sahgal. Sir, good evening and welcome to Gunner Shot once again. It's been a long time since we've had a one-to-one discussion. I'm glad that you made it happen.
Good
You
evening,
made it
sir.
time to
Yes, it's
come here.
always an honor to have discuss issues of contemporary interest with you, sir.
Thank you, sir. A lot is happening in Pakistan. At the outset, I'll just outline on a map what all is happening, so that we are all clear what is happening where, because a lot is happening really. You see from the north, you see Gilgit Baltistan, their protests and their violent protests and huge protests. Come down to POJK. For the past 10 days, there are protests in Rawalakot, there are protests in Kotli, there are protests in Hazira. Almost every reasonable town of POJK, there's a protest. And on 5th December, there's going to be this Joint Awami Action Committee mass protest all over POJK. Then go further down in that Kurram area, and there is sectarian strife. Even today or yesterday, about 17 people have died, and the last count was around 40. That's pretty serious. And if you go down Durand Line, all along Durand Line, the TTP and BLA are playing havoc in the system. And every day for the past about 2 to 3 months, 1 years, or one or two security forces being killed. You're seeing sophisticated attacks going on and all that. And very recently we had a attack on the Chinese, and where a lot of heat is now flowing between China and Pakistan on this issue. But most importantly is the ongoing PTI rally, which at this point of time has been postponed, despite a lot of effort by Pakistan to stop Pakistanis from going to Islamabad and staging their protests. When I say Pakistanis, the PTI people. They barricaded all roads, everything, yet people got through. A lot of firing. Numbers vary from 8 to 10 people who have died, and many more who have been injured. For the present, the the rally has been called out, but they say it will restart on Sunday or something like that. So it's almost a 360-degree story happening. The rimlands of Pakistan are definitely unstable. It's not only the rimland, now the heartland, Islamabad, is also verging on the unstable. Its economy has not recovered. Uh, Externally, uh, Pakistan remains cutty with India and Afghanistan, and very lukewarm relations with Iran. Even with China, their iron brothers, that brotherhood is rusting a bit. So this is where Pakistan is. In this context, I request Brigadier Sahgal, sir, your view on what's happening in Pakistan, and if you could analyze each of these, and is there a synergy developing on its own for reasons which we can't see in Pakistan, and where will Pakistan go from here? All yours, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Uh, Let me start by saying Pakistan is a state which is at war with itself. It is in a deep political turmoil, and that turmoil is escalating on a daily basis. In fact, it will not be wrong to say that Pakistan is undergoing its most severe political crisis since the fall of Musharraf in 2007-8. And I will even say that during General Dayal Bhutto, when Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was hanged in 76, 77. So it's an embattled Pakistan which is trying to manage the political context with the support of the army, and it is being challenged by a popularist movement which is being created by Imran Khan. The state believes that it has the capacity and the capability, after getting both the amendments through recently, that it will be able to manage these dichotomies. On the other hand, the PTI and its cadres are on the march, as you rightly said. Some of them have even reached the D chalk, and there have been large number of casualties. And the most important, interesting part is that the mantle of Imran Khan's leadership while he is in jail has been taken up by his wife Bibi Busharaf. Now, this is an interesting thing. So, the situation as it exists today is like this. If the army uses strong hand tactics and controls the PTI march with bloodshed, it will lead to further escalation in Pakistan. On the other hand, if the PTI succeeds, it will undermine the authority of the army, and like they say, the gates will open. The Fajis would lose control. Now, this is a very, very challenging scenario. Even as the rally was going on, the judiciary tried to intervene, but their intervention has meant nothing. So, what we have today is a government in Pakistan which is incapable of running the state properly on its own. It is being supported by the military, who has, in addition to uh, being responsible for the security of the nation, has also becoming the economic champions and economic masters of the destiny of Pakistan by saying that we will try and get you the money, we'll get you the resources, and has tried to dictate the economic agenda. On the other hand, what is happening is the people are restive, people are unhappy. In my recent discussions with some Pakistani friends whom I meet on the track too, they were most concerned about the rising electricity bills, rising commodity bills. An average household of, say, of a middle class family in Pakistan has to bear a bill of close to 20 to 25,000 rupees. And if you run one or two ACs, it can go up to about 30,000. This is the story of Pakistan. The standoff, the concern we should have is how is the standoff going to be managed? Because on one hand, if the PTI is controlled and PTI is accepts a certain degree of conditions, it will have to be at the behest of something which will have to be given to them by the PMLN coalition, and this will be again will be uh, stage managed or propagated by the Pakistani army. Now, the question on the other hand is that if the Pakistani army becomes an apolitical player or starts siding with the PTI, is going to make the coalition weak and become vulnerable. So they are now putting their hands together and trying their level best to control this whole march of the PTI and do something or the other to stall this, what to say, the final call of the Musharraf, of Imran Khan. The news that the movement has been stalled for the time being is basically, uh, to my mind, and what I'm picking up from sources, is an attempt by the army to negotiate some kind of peace terms, because the situation is becoming really out of control. The the second part, as you rightly mentioned, is that it is having a deep impact on the economy. Pakistani economies are showing some green shoots following the large scale induction of IMF loans and resources being provided by Chinese friends, the all weather friends. The but these disruptions have created a scenario where the public goods are not available, public movement is not available, offices are closed, schools are closed, internets are closed, and the result is electricity is not coming, and the result is that people are suffering. And as we are fully aware of what we are seeing in Bangladesh, when the people suffer, they come on the roads. And they don't come on the roads primarily because of their political convictions. At this time, they will come on the road because of their roti kapda and makan issues. So this is what the scenario is. So the important part again is that the Pakistani state is becoming slowly and steadily ungovernable. And this is where the whole problem is occurring. And again, I had recently in Bahrain, I met a couple of Pakistanis over there who had also come for the same workshop. Their contention was, a bright young fellows, and their contention was very simple. They said, sir, the situation is becoming so bad, it's becoming, we cannot, we cannot live in that country, not because we do not love our country, we love our country, but we have no options left. We want to get on with our lives, but there is no opportunities, and therefore we have to seek opportunities abroad. So this is what the situation, and the contextualness of what is happening in the Pakistan has to be understood. It is not merely the problems that we are looking at in terms of protests, etc. It is the contextualness and consequences of this which is becoming a very important issue. That's something. I'll stop the political part over here. If you want to interject anything, then before I go to sectarian violence. You are muted, sir. You are muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry, sir. How
No,
do you
no.
see this? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. How do you see this crisis as it unfolds? Because, uh, like you said, there's likely to be a negotiation between Imran Khan and the army and the government. It has to be a tripartite kind of a thing, because if one of them don't agree to this, nothing will happen. And they have to come to a via media. Will it stop at just Imran Khan being let off the jail and just say, okay, you participate, and for the next 5 years you keep quiet? Which I don't know whether Imran Khan will be prepared to do or not. The second thing is, if he's kept out of the loop, he'll continue with his guerrilla tactics. Why I'm saying guerrilla tactics is, if you see, he's being doing this regularly.
Hmm.
This is the fourth or the fifth time he's called for a move, walk to the D job, and he's withdrawn. But everyone says all his rallies have been a failure. But if you see, he's actually doing a tactical withdrawal every time. And he's gaining a strategic end of keeping the dissent alive and the dissatisfaction of the people alive. And every time he's moved towards the center of Islamabad, he's gained a few yards. So he's not running away. So, right, sir. So, in that context, do you see something happening, or you think? And of course, the fact also is that the Pakistan army and Imran Khan are daggers drawn with each other. Whether they are together or apart from each other, like you rightly said, the country is not being, they're not able to govern the country, and it's only going downhill. So the interesting thing is how fast it will go to downhill, and that will depend on the outcome of this crisis and whichever form you feel it could take. I mean, or rather, the options which are available. I think that would be a better way of looking at it.
Okay, okay. So interesting points, sir. Very, very pointed issues. The fundamental thing which I look at it is that Imran Khan's window of opportunity is also becoming narrower and narrower. You rightly said he started doing the same thing during the SCO conference on the around the 10th or 12th of October, and then he withdrew back. He had come some kind of arrangement. Now he has given this final call. He has charged up his cadres. So the issue is, how much space does he have to make a compromise and call the whole thing back, the whole protest, end the whole protest. What are the terms under which he will do it? He has to show some progress. That progress has to be seen in terms of tangible terms by the people who are supporting him. So it's a catch-22 situation. On the other hand, the problem with the military supported by, I mean, the political part, Shehbaz Sharif government supported by military, is that how much can they give to this thing? Because if they give too much and the people feel justifiably that they have won a major political victory, that will mean the end of their government. So the issue over here is the negotiating skills of the Pakistani military. So the give will have to be either in terms of the political, in the judicial considerations, that ki- withdrawal of the cases is not the main issue for him now. That's not a main issue. His coming out is not the main issue. The main issue is how they have manipulated the judiciary and put the people, thing, how they have brought in a constitutional court as part of the Supreme Court. All those issues are more important. And the more important than that issue is this, is that how will they restore the PTI with the kind of, they're taken away their membership on flimsy grounds, the quota system, the membership, those will have to be given back to him, and there will have to be a certain degree of quid pro quo in terms of political appointments to start with. The whole idea is that the notion of victory for Nawaz Sharif, for Imran Khan, has to be granted. Now, I'm not too sure as to what does the notion of victory for Imran Khan would mean, apart from giving some kind of political concessions. Will that satisfy him, or will that not satisfy him? It is no longer the issue again of Imran Khan per se. See, the cadres have been mobilized in his name, but there are enough people inside the party, PTI, who feel that exactly what you said, and this has also been said by Hussein Akani in a tweet yesterday. He said that he is not fighting the army. He's fighting for political consolidation. He's fighting to win back his political space. Now, how does he win back that political space is something, which, and he has to also show to the people that he's concerned with them. Because if it goes on and on and on, and there is a disruption in the life of the normal people, that will also become a counterproductive at some stage, as we are seeing in Bangladesh again. So it's not an easy issue. It's something which will have to be thought through, and I think the fact is that the three will sit down and come to some kind of acceptable conclusions, agreements. What they would be, they'll have to be. They could start with withdrawing some cases against Imran Khan, and then some appeals going on. In next 3-4 months, he is released. I believe he's very comfortable in jail. Incidentally, I was told by some people that he's got a private gym and things like that. Okay, so it's not that he's sitting in a coterie or something like that. Okay, so he has a large space. So the question is that 2-3 months cases withdrawn, he'll come back, and then they will be told, okay, PTI, now you have the space, you have your leader back. Now you start. Don't disturb the government, but you can start your political movement the way you want to do it. So that kind of scenario I can see happening, and then the whole issue will be revolved around that we have to be concerned about the economic security of the state. We have to be concerned about the state per se, and that kind of story. That the notion of Pakistan first will then be played up to manage this one. This is how I look
and
at it.
and do you really think the army under the present chief will be able to handle it the way we are talking of? because politically he's had always handles the entire game with a rod, whereas this needs real political maneuvering.
Very good question, sir. I was told that इसका negotiation करने में और इसका जो है इसको कैसे इसको इन चीज़ों को हैंडल करना है, सोफिस्टिकेटली हैंडल करना है, उसको नहीं आता है. वो वो इन चीज़ों में काफ़ी ill prepared है. He only knows danda, as you know, and again during my interaction with some of the so-called impressionist Pakistanis who have a fair degree of say in their own country, was that he is being high-handed even with the military. He has been high-handed with the ex-servicemen. He has been high-handed and with the diplomats also. So the even the so-called liberal elites in Pakistan who are willing to give him a long hand are concerned about his ability to nuance some kind of a very interesting settlement. And uske andar the another issue that is coming up is कि पाकिस्तान का सपोर्ट बेस भी बाहर से कम होता जा रहा है. Saudis are not interested in supporting beyond a point, except from brother Muslim nation. They should not go down that tube, but that's about all that they are concerned with. UAE and all are willing to provide some kind of money, but they are not interested. So, essentially speaking, Pakistan has to manage its economic and political woes itself, and then be supported by elements like China, with whom's interests and Pakistani interests are purely strategic. They have no other interests. I mean, each other is using the other person for its own good. One is using for economic and development purposes, other is using for strategic purposes, and getting a place in the Indian Ocean, access for landlocked Western China, which is and using it to create a developmental model for this landlocked Western China. So the issue is that this is where the whole thing is sort of resting. I mean, they talk big. They talk 10 to a dozen of a capacity and capabilities, which I'll cover in the next part when I come to that. But, essentially speaking, they are fully cognizant of the fact that they have faced a serious political and economic problem, and whose outcomes, the way they have to handle it, is something which they are not very clear about. That's my impression.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir, because one look at it, we don't know where it's going. Just to give you my 2 bits worth, Asim Munir is in a position where he can't give anything to Imran Khan. And if he gives, he might go. And if he doesn't give, he might still go. I feel his own position is at stake today, either way.
Yes.
So, and at the end of the day, Pakistan will continue to suffer or hemorrhage on this issue itself for a long time to come. So, your next issue, which
Okay, by sectarian violence. My second issue is sectarian violence. As you rightly said, both Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa are on the boil. There is a huge amount of sectarian violence there. It's not being controlled, particularly in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where we just now saw attacks on Shias. 44 of them have been killed. Prior to that, there were 18 or 20 other killed, large number of casualties to the Pakistani military. All this is happening because of the inability of the state to handle the intra Shia Sunni differences, not providing good governance, and not looking after the developmental factor in the state. So basically, these are the issues that are emerging. People are unhappy. People are are believing that there's a tendency to support the Sunnis at the behest of the Shias, and they are being isolated. Even after the attacks take place, they are not being adequately being compensated, and they are being basically left to themselves. This Khurram agency attack was particularly bad. There was a 2 kilometer long line which was attacked by these guys, And of course, they believe that in all this is there is a certain degree of the hand of the Pakistani military. This is further strengthened by the fact that the negotiations between the army and TTP have always been soft. The army has never been very strong against the TTP. They have not taken very swift and decisive actions against the TTP. There is a certain element who believes that the ISI and other intelligence agencies have continued to prop up these people, particularly in this region, where they believe that it's important to have a certain degree of de facto militancy to keep the Afghan border alive and get them to be able to react to those situations. But this is something which is they believe that the TTP is being fully supported by Afghanistan may be half truth and may not be fully truth. But the fact of the matter is the TTP's violence is against those elements of the Pakistani state who they believe have been compromising and who they believe have been inimical to the interests of their own tribal areas and tribal agency, basically the Fatah area, etc. So they are waging the same kind of militancy actions against the state as anybody would, like our what we see in Jammu and Kashmir, and our guys are doing it. I mean, the Pakistani supported things are happening in Kashmir, who are attacking people, killing people, just for to gain some kind of local sympathy, to showcase their prowess and believe that the state will listen to them. But that's what, as far as the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, it basically means is that there is the state failure to deal with the whole situation. There is one more angle which is now coming up, that is narcotics. And narcotics, now what is happening is, and this is an interesting angle, Taliban has come down very heavily on the growing of poppy in southern Afghanistan, and as a result, the markets of poppy, which was to then go from southern Afghanistan to northern Afghanistan through Uzbekistan and Tajikistan into the European market, have by and large closed, or they have been severely curtailed. So this has now become the new route for poppy smuggling, and TTP is playing a role in that. So this is another angle which is leading to violence, because when their convoys are stopped or they are checked, they resort to firing and killing. So that's why you see there is a large number of paramilitary forces, including in some cases the military guys have been killed. Balochistan story is a slightly different story. There are three elements to that story. One is exploitation of resources. Second is the unfair political deal and the grab by the Punjabis. And the third element is the selling of the Balochistan state crown jewels to the Chinese. They, they have never had a good deal ever since Buguti's time. The Balochistan was always on the boil, but Musharraf's strong-handed holding was successful. But now, with the money being coming in over there, the resources are plenty. There is enough channeling of funds from the developmental projects to the BLA and other elements, so they have become much more active. They're much more well equipped, and they're capable of launching a large number of attacks. And so basically, what we are seeing is BLA cadres, which are earlier included tribals, now have got educated people, middle class people, who are fundamentally having been not given any jobs, any they are being left out out of the development package. They are now joined these cadres. So so that's why we see they are now becoming emboldened, and some kind of smuggling of arms is also taking place from Afghanistan. The the that's the reason we see the BLA cadres becoming much more active and much more bold, having attacked recently the infantry school boys who are getting onto the train. Before that, there was another attack on the railway station. Prior to that, there was this attack on what's called the Chinese in Gwadar. There have been number of attacks against the Chinese, as also on the infrastructure. So this story is basically is to ensure that the interests of Baluchis are not overlooked. Number two, Chinese are not given the privy to the crown jewels of the state. And there is also an economic element is that, it's sad to know that the gas prices for the Baluchis is higher than what is being paid in Lahore. So this is another issue which is becoming a serious concern. So Baluchis are up in arms against the mismanaged by the state of their lands, not being made privy to any of the developmental assets that have been created. And number three is the fact is that the Pakistani military has been extremely harsh earlier on the BLA cadres, which have affected them. So they are now retaliating, and they are retaliating in a big way. And we see a major confrontation brewing up between the military and these cadres. The important point to note is that earlier they were submissive. Now they are well equipped, and there is a vulnerability which they are exploiting. And the vulnerability is the Chinese cadres, Chinese workers who are over there. They know that they can get immediate sympathy, global attention if they hit a Chinese. That's why if you are aware of the fact that there have been two attacks on the Gwadar port itself. So this brings me to the Chinese factor. The Chinese are concerned. You are aware of the fact that the Chinese ambassador made a startling announcement that China is concerned about the security situation of their people. Although the Pakistani Foreign Office tried to deny it, but the fact of the matter is that the Chinese have imported 300 security people from three different private companies to manage the security of the Chinese. There are a total of 30,000 Chinese available right now. And the Chinese are very clear that if the security situation does not improve, having signed the CPEC 2.0, they are still very clear that the projects will only go through if there is an adequate security. Another issue is, which is also a side issue, which is an important issue, particularly as far as Pakistan is concerned. Their security bill for the Chinese is going up. They're spending close to about 192 million dollars per year. It's going to go up to about close to about 250 to 260 million dollars a year for the security of these people. So paying bills for security, not providing security, allowing Chinese to bring the security is an issue which will gonna have great political ramifications, and this is something again which will become a politically contested issue. The two three things are more important is that we have to understand that despite what this situation and the security conditions of the Chinese investors and the Chinese companies and the Chinese workers is, China will remain invested in Pakistan because it's for strategic reasons and for warm water port access. Gwadar is their crown jewel. Access roads, the developmental projects, the special economic zones where uh, the Chinese goods are being produced are all part and parcel of a grand strategy of commercialization of Pakistan for the Chinese good. It is basically what is happening is Chinese factories are coming up. Majority of the workers are Chinese. There are few hundred odd Pakistanis working over there. They produce goods which are then put onto the ships and transported to across the world. And what does it mean? It basically means is you're cutting on huge costs for transporting items from Shanghai or the other and bringing them. So the issue is there is a huge element of economic element which is favoring the Chinese to continue with it and deal with the security challenges. Chinese are conscious, Chinese are aware that they can able to browbeat them. The second issue is Gwadar and Pasni, as I've said earlier, are emerging as the hubs for the Chinese outreach into the region. And like I said earlier, Gwadar may become the first outpost of the Chinese Overseas Command. The fact that 8 submarines are being built, Hunger class submarines are being built by the Chinese in that area. Chinese are developing the port, and also the fact is that please also understand is that once the Chinese trade volumes increase, which it is increasing when China becomes a 23-25 trillion dollar economy, Gwadar could become a very important port for them for transportation of goods, particularly to Western China and through the other arteries which they are created through their massive infrastructure. So they will use the infrastructure to break down the costs. Not so much of oil, but transportation of goods and stuff. What is there in Pakistan? 82% of Pakistani weapons are now coming from China. This is something which we need to take cognizance of. Number two, the weapons are increasing in sophistication. They're getting J-10s, they're getting advanced drones. And what is most important, if you don't know, which I just learned, is that they're providing with advanced technologies, particularly the emerging technologies in places like AI, quantum, and also in terms of directed energy weapons. They have opened the locks to the space-based assets. The BIDO, operational BIDO is available to say the entire edifice of the Pakistani Nuclear Command Authority or the strike weapon systems, their guidance systems will be based on what they get from the BIDO. And since BIDO is outside our range, so it's important to note that even when we develop capacity and capabilities, we will have to invest more money in to ensure that we can sort of negate them. So so this is an issue that we need to take out. They are also being provided with more capabilities. The new submarines which are being built with torpedo tubes which can carry a nuclear warhead. And also, the Chinese are providing them with low frequency transmitters for communications with their submarines. So, there is a huge element of operational and strategic combination that is taking place between these two. And as we all understand, know is that China for a you know wants to ensure that the propensity of the Pakistani threat to India remains, so that India remains engaged on the Western front, while they maintain some kind of a subtle pressure in the north, so that to ensure that the cost of India's security goes up, India remains enmeshed in these security elements, and this ability for power projection through maritime and other issues is gets that much constrained. I mean, this is a thought process. This is a mindset of these people. This is something which we need to take cognizance of. So I've covered up to the China factor. I'll leave the perceptions about India the last. I'm open to any questions or any issues you want me to
So
explain.
the way China and Pakistan are progressing strategically. I'll say strategically because that's the overarching way of putting across the relationship. And they're very ambitious about it, there's no doubt. Whether they want to use Gwadar or from there to dominate the North Arabian Sea lanes and the sea space, maritime space, there's no doubt about it. And China is prepared to invest anything into Pakistan for them to have a big base out there. That's a foregone conclusion. And China can't is so invested it can't get back. That is one part of this. But all this demands a stable polity. And that stable polity is not there in Pakistan. So when that stable polity is not there, and you see in this entire story, the army is getting weakened. The army is emerging weaker by the day. I mean, if you go back, say 5, 10 years back, if the army, a chief said something that was done. If he waved a danda, it was done. And he could manipulate things from, sitting in Islamabad and Rawalpindi, he could control Afghanistan. But those days are gone. So how do you think this dichotomy will play out?
See, yeah, but I mean, you are absolutely right in the sense that the army is losing. See, what the army is losing is political control. It is military and strategic control. It is not losing. I mean, in all those issues, they remain the supreme players. I mean, there is no question about it. The Even on the normal issues of security, like cricket team is playing, etc., etc., the final arbitrator of whether what
It is the
kind of
armies.
security is the army. So the manner in which what technologies they have to develop, what capacities they have to develop, these decisions are being taken by the army. I don't know how many of us follow. There is a thing called the uh, ideas International Defense Exhibition and Seminars, which takes place every year in Pakistan, in Karachi. And there they showcase a large number of the new developed weapons, and also what kind of weapons they are being given by the Chinese, etc. And instantly you'll be surprised to know that 35 countries participated in the last ideas. So one thing we must not take overlook the fact is that yes, army is in not relatively that strong position. Army is overcommitted. Politically, there is turmoil in Pakistan, but on the security front, we should not get ourselves distracted by the fact that they are will do everything to ensure a certain degree of credible capacities and capabilities. And this lesson they have learned from the Balakot time is that they believe that in any region, low level conflict or sort of conflict which escalates as a part of a cross border terror and India retaliates, they will be able to hold escalation up to a reasonably high level before it gets out of control. And they say when it gets out of control, then they have the whole element of what they call the full spectrum deterrence, etc., in place. So there is a certain degree of macho-ness in their perceptions which is emerging, and this is a dangerous perception. In fact, I had to tell this guy. I said, "Don't live under illusions. We have very strong capacities and capabilities, and you are not. Don't drag the region into a conflict where you will be the biggest loser." But they don't seem to understand that. I mean, they are very the thing is that we can manage any regional conflict, or let's say localized conflict with India, and will not allow India any kind of operational or strategic space. That's their belief. That's how they are operating, right or
Yeah.
wrong. But this is something which we need to take cognizance of. My point is, I'm not saying they can get away with it. I'm not saying they are capable of doing it. All I'm trying to explain is that there is this belief, and this belief is by senior generals, senior recently retired generals, senior diplomats, senior academics, but the younger lot, like I said, are much more nuanced. They do not want to get involved in this kind of regional acrimony. They are wanting to have a better life. They want to grow and get out of this constant bickering syndrome between the two countries. So this is what the this whole issue is. So
So
this brings me
so I'd like to sum up what you said. I think you made some very interesting points. And the picture I get is that we are dealing with this country with a schisms. On one end, it looks as if it feels it can rule the world or handle any situation it is in front. On the other, it is going to remain a jelly state where from every day it has to survive on its own, or from outside help. And this is a dangerous schism which we are dealing with, and we have to be quite uh, clear that we are dealing with this kind of a mentality, a two-faceted mentality. I think that's a very important point which you brought out, and that's how we need to look at it from a larger issue.
yes,
Uh,
absolutely, absolutely, sir, absolutely. Okay, come to my last segment. This is perception about India. Uh, Three, four things. Number one, they seek equivalence in everything about India. They are not willing to accept India's economic growth, India's military growth, India's strong global position, etc., etc. And when it becomes uncomfortable with them, they bring the China factor into it. Then there is China, of course. There is China. China, you are no guys are nobody to vis-a-vis China. So there is attempt at moral equivalence. Then and when it becomes uncomfortable, then the China factor is, and this is across everybody, diplomats, generals, everybody. The second element is that they have started a new narrative. The new narrative is that you are talking about terrorism. Okay, let's talk about terrorism, but we will also talk about India supporting terrorism in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as well as BLA, etc. You are supporting these elements. You are responsible for them. You are behind them, and then only one thing they come up with Jadhav. See, so now the problem is basically is this thing is they are made up their mind to not to be open. They have a closed mind. And because they have a closed mind, what they basically continue to do is that they want to have a strategy of deflection. They deflect everything. I mean, in comprehensive national power equivalence, no, but then there is China. When it comes to internal problems within Pakistan, inability to handle sectarian minority violence, all kind of political misconduct, then they blame India for it. So there is this whole issue of deflection uh, vis-a-vis this thing, and try to bring India narrative in just about all the problems that the Pakistanis have. This leads me to a very, very interesting and a serious conclusion. The serious conclusion is that they continue to harp on Kashmir. They continue to harp on the developments in Kashmir. They are not hugely impressed with our elections, etc., etc., etc. So the narrative of India's responsibility or India being blamed for troubles in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa or in Balochistan is being used as an antidote for stirring up trouble in India, cross-border trouble in India, both in the in Jammu region as well as the Kashmir region. So this is their equivalence. They say, okay, you are happening. This is happening because of what you guys are handling over there. So this is one issue. The second issue is, in my belief, I may be wrong, but my belief is there is an erosion of ceasefire agreement that we signed in 2021 taking place. And that erosion is being taking place is primarily because Pakistani military leadership, you asked as to how they'll get out of it, is they are going around externalizing the their internal problems and making India as a scapegoat. Now, in this, my concern are that we might see major attacks or terrorist incidents taking place in India, and that would become an important issue. And as the situation in Pakistan deteriorates, it becomes impossible for this thing as a deflection strategy. They might put a major incident either in Jammu and Kashmir or somewhere else in the country. Now, this is something which we need to be concerned about in the next 6 months to a year, till such time there is a political stability returns to Pakistan. This is my perception of what they're perceiving India is all about.
Right, sir. I think we made some very interesting points. We moved from political to international relations with China and then our relations with India. One last question, sir. There's trouble brewing in J&K also. How does that fit into this entire story which is happening?
In
Because
in in
POJK and Gilgit Baltistan.
that they can manage. They say there's a localized. They don't give
Okay.
it a too much. That they believe is can be managed is not localized, and okay. The perception basically which is being sold is this, that yes they are unhappy, yes they don't have enough to eat, yes they have concerns, but they are not in a position to join up with India. And
Yeah, they are
that's
not in a position. That there's no doubt about it.
so the question then is that those troubles are their internal troubles, whether
So they'll handle it.
they'll handle it. It's the perception over here that these things can be joined together and created a one whole. My feeling is misplaced. I'm being very specific.
No, I'm not talking of the fact that POJK and GB we from here we can do anything because we have done no political outreach at all. Unless you do a political outreach to them, there's
Yes,
nothing to
absolutely.
take it forward.
Yeah.
It's their internal thing, it's going to happen. But the only thing is, if you look at it at this point of time, there's something happening in POJK, there's something happening in GB, there's something happening all along the Durand line, including Shia Sunni sectarian strife, which never happened so far, not to this extent. And there's something happening internally in Islamabad and in Rawalpindi, which is destabilizing. So all these put together and is one side where you see a very weak Pakistan, and this will continue. I don't think it's going to improve. It might temporarily, the thing might go, but it will continue. And on the other hand, you see Pakistan army going gung ho with China, trying to build up all these strategic fancies. And this dichotomy in their whole story is something which you have to deal. And I think that's the bigger problem we have.
Absolutely, sir. We have to take cognizance of this and do not take things lightly. This is my important message. My important message is that Pakistani state, despite its internal trouble, despite its internal contradictions, despite the fact that the army is on the back foot, there will be no give on India, and 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 India would always be used to externalize internal troubles in the strategy of externalization, as I call it, and this is where the problem for us lies, and we have to be careful, watch situations carefully, and see that the Chinese so Pakistanis are not able to take advantage, particularly by creating internal incidents in India. This is a message I want to. This is my view. I'm sorry, not a message. This is my view.
Oh, thank you, sir. I think, no, why not a message also? Let the message go to whoever is seeing it. He should
Yeah.
understand this. I will leave it at that, so I'll take a few questions with your